Welcome to another episode of In Your Business. My name is Reeves Kirtner. I'm your host. Season 2 of In Your Business is presented by Moses Auto Mall of Huntington. Online at mosesmeansmore.com and powered by the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce and Kindred Communications. Joining me today is the president of Mountwest Community and Technical College, Dr. Josh Baker. We'll be discussing how Mountwest is forging strategic partnerships with local industries to tailor workforce development programs, their impact on the economy here locally, and the vital role they play in bridging the skills gap that so many businesses face today. Let's get in your business. Dr. Baker, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Let's start with, just give us the elevator story, the elevator pitch of what Mountwest Community and Technical College is and what your mission is.
Well, we are 2-year community and technical college with actually several options that are less than 1 year. We have about 2,500 students every year, the majority of them in a regular full-time 2-year program. Not counted that number is actually several short-term programs. Some of them, we call it credit, non-credit, but the shorter-term stuff is technically non-credit, and tends to have like a quicker pathway to get to work type stuff. That's our short rope there on the hill.
Yeah. How long's Mountwest been there now? And it was a part of Marshall at one point. Can you share the history of it too a little bit?
So it's been about 15 years ago.
Yeah.
The state divided all of the 2 years and the 4 years. They used to be apart. And they wanted to increase the focus on workforce development.
Right.
The tuition at the community colleges was the highest in the country. The workforce development focus was just not there.
Okay.
And it's, I think, been a very good move.
Yeah.
To really focus on those things. And I think we've done a much better job of focusing on students who maybe are not as traditional.
Yeah, right.
Or maybe they don't see themselves as regular university students.
So, this podcast, it's business focused, Huntington business focused. And so I wanted to have you and Mountwest on to talk about, what Mountwest does for the business community, what you can do for the business community. And I want to kind of start with that workforce development and those industry partnerships that you just kind of mentioned. How does Mountwest identify and establish partnerships with local industries and local businesses? Where do you all see those needs and work on those needs?
We put that as a very high priority, maybe the highest priority. And actually, the last 4 years, because of the economy and some of the results of COVID, industry partners have been more willing to play than ever.
Okay.
They've been a little more desperate for their workers, and they're willing to put more on the table. They're willing to be more interactive, more work-based learning. So it's actually been a really fun stretch. So we want to work with them. Sometimes that means they message us and we go to them. Every now and then, we'll even reach out to them if we hear of needs. But we really need to know what needs they have.
Can you give some examples? Like can you give some examples from the last couple of years of those?
So C.J. Hughes was the really fun one.
Okay.
That started now 2-ish years ago, and Doug Reynolds reached out after a newspaper article and said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you about a program," and that's where it started.
Okay.
And it's interesting, as a program like that, students probably aren't going to come to our college, knock on the door and say, "I want to do utility construction." But they'll probably reach out to C.J. Hughes, right? And that combination, that relationship, is what builds the pipeline.
Okay.
Especially in this economy, that people knock on the door of the company, and the company a lot of times says, "We need help to train."
All right. So like this is interesting. So C.J. Hughes is like, "Hey, we need utility pipeline workers," is that what you said?
Utility construction workers.
Sorry. So, and they're in my neighborhood right now as we speak, doing gas line work and all kind, tearing our roads up. But they're everywhere. They're working right now. So he was like, "Hey, I need blank number of workers over the next whatever years. Like, we're short. We need people."
Yeah.
And you sit down and have that conversation with him. Okay, what do you need? How does it work? I mean, talk about that conversation.
So that was several meetings.
Of course.
To really figure out, like, what do you need that we can help with?
Right.
And because they also use some other pathways, other pipelines, they do some direct hiring. But we really had to zero in on what is it you want our students to learn while they're preparing and working for you.
Okay.
So there's a lot of focused conversations and a lot of, we thought we had it and we didn't, right? Go back and adjust and edit.
So did you all have any programs like that at all before then?
No, nothing at all.
Nothing like at all. So,
Yeah.
so how do you start from scratch on a program like that?
Well, they're the expert.
Okay.
Right? And in fact, we use their employees as teachers.
Okay.
We pay them to come teach for us because we need the experts, not somebody who hasn't done it before.
Right.
So in a situation like that where it's a very specialized skill, we have them help us.
Okay.
So another program would be solar power,
Okay.
which we're just now getting started. Got a grant from the state, and again, it was solar power. I don't even know who contacted who first.
Okay.
But they're telling us that this is what it looks like. We don't have that expertise.
Right.
So we go out and we find that expertise. We hire that expertise, usually from a reference from them.
Let me go back, and I want to ask about the solar power thing too, but let me go back to CJ Hughes. So when they're applying for a job and they're going to get hired at CJ Hughes, but they need the training,
Right.
Is CJ Hughes paying for those classes? How does that process work?
So the tuition is paid for almost entirely by West Virginia Invest.
Okay.
Right. So many of our students go to school for free.
Yep.
If they live in West Virginia, that picks it up, and if they don't, FAFSA will a lot of the
Okay.
time. So that actually covers the tuition most of the time.
Okay. So, all right. So, same thing. Let me ask you this too. Maybe being a devil's advocate.
Yep.
But there's is it Solar Holler that you're working with, or is this somebody different on the solar?
Solar hauler.
Solar Holler. Okay. So Solar Holler, CJ Hughes. Why can't they just train them on the site and teach them as they go and all that kind of stuff? What are they learning from Mountwest versus what they would learn if they were an apprentice on the field in the field?
So in theory, they actually could, right? They do it both ways. What we bring to the table in addition, it's a little bit of extra resources. So a couple of pieces there. One is we can usually pay the teacher to do it out of utilizing state funds. We also have Learn and Earn. So Learn and Earn means that the state will pay for half of their wages while they are students.
Okay.
So that means that their employees in that first period, if there are students, their cost of employment is half.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we'd like to think that we bring something to the table to enhance the education, the preparation, the discipline,
Sure.
but also definitely resources to make that happen.
Talk about the history of community and technical colleges. Is this a newer development, or has this always been like this? I feel like over the last couple of years, this has been more of where community colleges are going and need to go.
Right. So it's interesting. Every state is different.
Okay.
And within every state, everyone has their own history. In many states, they had tech centers, which were entirely tech focused.
Right.
They've been doing this for decades.
Right. Okay.
Then you have community colleges that were very academic tradition, where they were just transfer institutions. And then most of them have been somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Mostly a hybrid. And so for us, we haven't been too much in the skilled trades, if you were to go back 10 years ago. And where now, that's where we do quite a bit of our work.
Is that just because of the need?
It is because of the need. It's
Yeah.
also because the state realized we were failing our industry and our citizens.
Okay.
I mean, that was part of that split 15 years ago, is we're not helping.
Right.
And we're very far behind.
Right.
And so that's part of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Has the state, putting, you say we're failing 15 years ago. Is the state putting more investments into community and technical colleges across the state now?
So yes, and so there's a part of me that says our budgets are woefully low, right? Like we're not keeping pace with inflation, which means a cut every year.
Yep.
On the other hand,
Yeah.
they have made a few funding sources available, which they're big. It's a big time thing.
Right.
So number one is the Learn and Earn. It's not exclusively West Virginia, but it's not common.
Right.
The second one is West Virginia Invest, which pays for all of the workforce-focused degrees for free.
Okay.
That is becoming more and more popular. In fact, more and more states are paying for the entirety of community colleges. But that is a big, big deal.
Yeah. So the solar program, the CJ Hughes program. How many people have gone through programs like that? Like those kind of really specific tailored programs.
I don't know if I can come up with that exact number.
That's fine.
Yeah, because those programs are actually fairly new themselves.
Yeah. Well, and what other? Yeah, as you mentioned too, they're going to be more well-rounded, more educated. What other classes and programs are a part of that training more than just utility work or solar work?
And so a couple of the programs we're really happy about right now, really excited about. Drug and alcohol counseling is only a year in, and quickly growing. And when I arrived, I looked at our community and said, "Wow, how do we not have this?"
Sure.
And
Sure.
so we got
That's right.
we got started on that right away.
Yeah, yeah.
Cyber and IT is growing fast. We're getting our National Center of Excellence for cybersecurity we hope this fall.
Okay.
We have a new space built for that based using a federal earmark, federally directed spending. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
It is not officially open yet, but we're really excited.
Yeah, yeah.
Technical marketing is another one. So technical marketing you can enter as a regular student or as a community member who wants to do short-term trainings. And it's different from your classic marketing training. It's focused on, I need to learn how to do a podcast or audio. I need to learn how to do, not necessarily YouTube, but some kind of video creation and editing.
Right.
It's focusing on the different pieces.
Yeah, sure.
And so, a youth pastor or, somebody who's running a small company could come in, learn a very focused skill in a short amount of time, and then use that for their company.
Sure.
So we're trying to appeal to all students with
Sure.
those.
Going back to the the area businesses, how often do you have those kind of conversations with business owners? That hey, I need help. We need workers. We got Nucor coming right here in the next couple of years. They're going to need, I'm assuming, especially skilled workers. How often are you having conversations like that?
Not enough.
Yeah.
So we're constantly open, and anybody who employs and is looking for training for 20 plus people, that's easy for us. But it's the small companies that only have a couple employees. It's hard for us to do specialized focus.
Of course. What do you say for those people, like on the specialty thing? Is that's where, what do you, yeah, go ahead. I don't want to answer that question, but because I don't want to guess, but what do you say on the, hey, 20, okay, I can do 20, but like 5 or less, that doesn't make sense for us economically.
So 5 or less, we're going to show them the menu of what we have available.
Yeah.
And that may include 4 credit. It may include a short term or 2 year. And a lot of times it's a short term.
Right.
We can throw together something like last year we had Advanced Excel and Salesforce. Ran a couple cohorts of each, both of them totally sold out.
Yeah.
Actually, most of them are free because of funding sources we have, grants we have.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what we do is we show them the existing menu. And sometimes we hear an idea and we're like, you know what, we don't have that.
Okay.
And so we can now, maybe we should expand that and see who else would be interested in doing that.
Sure. Do you seek out some of those conversations? I mean, it sounds like CJ Hughes reached out to you, but do you go, hey, we can help you, somebody, with your employees?
We do. Yeah, we do. And this is where our biggest challenge is we previously have not had staffing in this area. And so we've gone from probably 0 people to 5 people who can all do this type of work.
Yeah.
And providing the online programming for it, the background support, the registration. So anyway, this is a space we're really getting new into.
Yeah. How important are these partnerships to Mountwest in terms of paying the bills?
Yeah, this is... So it's interesting is I don't know that it really helps pay the bills a lot.
Okay.
But it's core to our mission.
I got it.
Right? And
yes,
so
absolutely.
It's a win if we break even.
Yeah.
And we really do, though. We take tremendous pride in anytime we can provide a training that helps a company.
Sure.
We go home happy, right? Like that's a win for us. We love to hear from companies and get that, hey, invitation, come do this training, help us out with that.
Sure. Let's talk about the economic impact on the region, and I like that. If we just break even, it's a win, because again, that's where you're getting your grants. It's like hey, this is what we've done. What is Mountwest economic impact on the region? Do you have numbers and data and all that fun stuff?
The draft report is in my email right now.
Okay, so go ahead.
We may have to do an addendum after to add those numbers.
Yeah, sure.
But it's interesting though is. I think it's like a 17x multiplier, somewhere between 15 and 17. Every dollar that the state puts in, it's a significant return to the state.
Sure.
And what we provide, but also the trainings and the increased wages, and it's a big deal.
Yeah. So you mentioned you look at other programs, and we should add that. Can you give us some examples there?
Programs you want to add?
Yes.
Well, the focus for the past year has been apprenticeship. So we have apprenticeships programs in the state. They're very strong. They're very good. And what's interesting is they finish at the end without a degree.
Okay.
What we want to do is help them all get certificates or degrees at the end. This actually helps us as we recruit new companies into the state. So our attainment numbers go up, and it sends a signal to companies that we are more engaged in high-level or actually we sometimes call them middle skills training.
Okay.
And that means that we have an educated workforce.
Right, that's right.
So we may not, through that focus right there of getting them degrees, we may not make our apprentices significantly better, but what we're doing is increasing the branding of the state.
Right.
So this is one of our biggest emphasis. Now, also with that objective, what we're doing with that program, we are trying to enhance the pipeline to the apprenticeship. So this is actually where we do help local.
Okay.
And we give them the prep they need to pass their tests, actually to explore even. And we just got a grant for this from Lowe's, just shy of $500,000.
Okay.
We're actually going to be able to pay people who are in their pre-apprenticeship.
Okay.
Pay them for about a month of that work. When they walk out, we want them to be ready to pass their test, know which apprenticeship they want, really build that pipeline.
So can you talk about what you are doing? How does that work when businesses are looking at West Virginia, when Nucor is looking at West Virginia and they want to see that skilled workforce, the educated workforce? What is Mountwest's role in that? Right.
We would love to play more. So I sit on the board for Dave Living at Hagco, Tricia Ball at the Chamber, Advantage Valley. We're not on the board at Mason, but we're very involved in Mason. Those are our service areas. Wayne, which is mostly served by the Huntington Area Chamber.
That's right.
We sit on the boards, and we are just always pushing that message of, if you have an employer who wants to talk about how to get employees, call us.
Yeah.
And we would literally go out and visit. We went to Alabama not too long ago to visit Nucor's program.
Okay.
So we're all in, and we love to engage. And we typically don't go out and do the recruiting, but the truth is we would.
Yeah.
We're all about it.
It's part of the story. Years ago, Joe Manchin said, West Virginia is over-educated. I'm sorry, over-medicated and undereducated.
Right.
I feel like we're doing a lot of the right things on both of those problems. I mean, what do you think our workforce is like now compared to 10 years ago, and where does it still need to go?
So a lot of speculation. I wasn't here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. How long have you been here now?
3 years.
3 years. And where'd you come from?
Last stop was Colorado Springs. I was there for 5 years.
At a community and technical school. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. So obviously speculation. I'm with you.
So what I see, even in 3 years, is much more focused on who's in the community. We used to just kind of be generic. Look, you come here for 2 years, find your pathway, then you go work a classic traditional college. Now we are really thinking about who is out there, who are our neighbors, who's our family members, our nieces and nephews, who cannot get a career path, right? They're stuck working a job that's not a career.
Okay.
Or they haven't even figured that out yet.
Right.
And we have to figure out how to design programming that gets them where they are to where they are making a contribution.
Yeah.
So one thing I'm a big fan of, the hospitals. And they probably initiated with us, and we were very happy to respond. They have people doing kind of the minimum skill job. And we are providing trainings. Patient care tech would be as close title as we can provide to it. But that means that they have a chance to go from kind of kitchen work, and I don't mean trained kitchen work, and cleaning work into bedside work. So if these are individuals that they lost their way, they had kids, here's some opportunity to figure something out.
So that's like so that's a program like with the hospitals. These are entry-level workers. These are just jobs, and then you will work with the hospital to take an employee like that and advance them within the hospital. Right?
Yes, and the hospital's paying the tuition. They've been great partners. They provide the space. They do a lot of the marketing, recruiting, because it's helping. We all have the big heart, right? Like we want to help our community, but they also realize it's good for their business.
Absolutely, it is.
Right? They have a gap in skills.
Of course, gap in skills, and also I'm sure they have not a problem, but retain employees.
Yeah.
We're going to keep this person here, longer if we're showing him more skills, and he's also going to make a little bit more money. And
that's actually a great point.
Right, go up the ladder there too.
If you talk to that low skills group and say we want to create a pathway for you to go up, I think that's a great culture builder.
Sure it is. Absolutely. When a student that doesn't go through a program like that, or the C.J. Hughes or the solar power example, when he has I don't want to say general, but he has a program in the drug and alcohol program, or a nursing or whatever, when they graduate, what does Mountwest do next? What can Mountwest do to help him or her get that job? If it's not for a specific, program, or not a program, but with a partnership with another group here in Huntington.
Right. So if you're like in the IT cyber, you're not prepared for a particular company.
Yes,
at the
that's
end.
what I'm trying to say, yes.
So this one is, I'm fortunate to have I'm proud of this answer on this particular program. We have a company called Intiva. It's a national-based company. They have a training center in our building. And they get paid internships working for Intiva. Now, some of them actually get hired by Intiva at the end to become remote workers. Some of them do not, but they walk out the door with something meaningful on their resume.
Okay.
Right? It's work experience that's not fast food or retail. It's actually in the field.
That's right.
And we're so grateful for that type of partner, and we want more partners like that.
Yeah.
We wish every student would graduate with some type of meaningful work
Sure.
experience.
Yeah, sure. Where do you see, again, talking about the future, we talked about the last 3 years. Again, where do you see the future of Mountwest's role in the economy, in this area?
I think there's two major fronts. One, it continues to be our traditional come to the college programming. And those tend to be in your standard medical areas. And by the way, we work with a lot of partners on those. I'll throw out there, we do not educate in a silo. St. Mary's being the major pathway, but we work with the tech centers, we work with Marshall, and we work with Collins and others. The other one is continuing to work with the companies. And if our current economic situation and lack of workers continues, lack of skilled workers, I think more and more will be in companies. In companies, inside their building, providing the training. And there's also that hybrid where we're providing the training as they prepare to enter, but it's in a very specific creation and design. I think that's what it looks like. And actually, to go back to a previous question, Tony Stroud called me one day and said, "Hey, we got a company who wants to come in town, and they have a question about workforce."
Okay.
And that was grateful to Tony for making that connection and making us an ecosystem that supports industry. And when I talked to him, I said, "Look, if you want to come in here and tell people to go to a 2-year program, it's just not going to happen. You're going to get 5 students. You're not going to feed your company." And this is probably true anywhere in the country right now.
Right.
You have got to create a program with us, integrated into your company where they are getting paid probably within 8 weeks. C.J. Hughes designed their program so they wouldn't even have to miss work. They would go from their old job, they'd get the training in the evenings, and then transition right into work.
Of course.
That's what we're working with right now.
Yeah. Well, again, can't afford to go. If you can't get paid, you've got kids, whatever, you got a mortgage and a car payment, you can't afford to go to school, right? And that's that barrier that you've got to overcome there.
Yep.
Is that part of the conversation with Tony? Is that part of like the 4th Avenue Innovation District, some of those businesses?
Probably not specifically on that.
Okay.
I mean, this is what's interesting is, and I mentioned no silos. Like, it is literally a team surrounding all of this and saying, who can pick up this piece? Who can help with this? And I think it's working really well.
Yeah. And that's, again, like you said, that's with Collins, that's with Marshall, that's with Mountwest, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Cabell Tech Center. We're actually expanding into Mason, working with Mason Tech Center to do adults.
Okay.
It's never been done up there.
Okay.
We're working with everybody.
Yeah.
Marshall Advanced Manufacturing Center is one of our key partners.
Yeah. Talk about your relationship with Marshall and all that you do there.
So it's a really interesting relationship, and I say that because it's probably fairly unique in the country. There's certain areas where we certainly have some overlap, and we really try to focus on how do we work together, how do we collaborate, how do we make sure that what we're doing serves the community, and it's not a competition, but it is a collaboration to solve a community challenge.
Yeah,
and it's been dynamic. Literally sat with Brad Smith yesterday, and I said, "Look, here's something we'd like to take on." And he said, "You wouldn't believe this. I had a funder contact me about this 2 weeks ago." And so now we're going to move into a new conversation of what does this partnership look like?
Right.
And we talked about the airport, the aviation maintenance. Mm-hmm. That's a tough program for us to get started. It's complicated, the accreditation. He said, "Would you do it again?" And I said, "Well, we wouldn't be where we are if it weren't for the relationship."
That's right. Yeah.
And now we're recruiting companies to come in, right, and expand the airport.
So when you talk about like that program with Brad Smith, like, hey, we want to do this, and he mentions a donor wants to fund it, is the next step of that, okay, this is what Mountwest puts into this. We offer these classes, and then Marshall offers those classes, and now we got a 2-year degree or a 2-year program.
Right.
Is that kind of how that?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And there's different resources that we can each bring to the table. And ours is our flexibility to work with employers, and that West Virginia invests and the learn and earn.
Sure.
Right. So they bring a ton to the table.
Sure. Let's talk more about our skills gap in our area. What are some of the most critical skills gaps in our workforce, and what other ways is Mountwest working to address them, and what do you wish you could do more of with that skills gap?
I bet we'd have many employers who would say my area is at the top, right? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. It's really interesting.
That's right.
So at the top, or right there in that top group for us, would be anything medical.
Yeah. Still, it's crazy.
That's what I'm hearing and seeing, and they're great careers.
It absolutely does.
At number 2, and I think it's emerging even more, is the IT cyber.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that going for the national credential. We said, is this the future of Huntington, West Virginia? Like historically, we'd say no. I had people say, no, that's not what Huntington, West Virginia does. And just watching the trends, we bet on it. And then Brad came in and said, yeah, it is the future.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that's been good. And one other one I definitely have to throw in that mix. First of all, everything skilled trades, but everything that's anything touching manufacturing, machining, etc.
Still. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, what is? Can you give some more specifics as to what Mountwest is doing to address some of those? What are you doing to get more people in, get them graduated, get them certified, and then so they can go out and help fill some of those needs?
Well, a little bit of praise for Marshall Advanced Manufacturing Center on this. They and us, we've both acquired multiple grants. The new program, Smart Systems Maintenance and Robotics Technology.
Okay.
They are making that program available here in Huntington and Mason County, different times of the days, making it available. This appears to be a great career path with lots of employers. And yes, we're talking about Nucor, but also the employers who need those same skills that will feel that pressure.
Sure. Is that a part of the facility that's going to go on 3rd Avenue by like where the Marshall baseball and softball stadium is, or is that something different?
I shouldn't. That's going to be a better question for the Marshall folks.
Got it. Yeah.
I think I know.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah. We I don't know when this is going to come out specifically. Tony Stroud will be on an episode. He is scheduled to appear, so I'll have him for that. So.
I think they're basically looking at 2 buildings. One will take more of the welding. One will take more of the machine.
Got it. So, what can you say about the cybersecurity program at Mountwest, and again with the building that's going on, Greer in Huntington? Like, what's that collaboration? What are you all bringing to the table with a program like that?
So our expertise has been on the 2-year and the short term.
Okay.
And
what does a 2-year person do versus a 4-year person on that program?
So the 2-year person is going to start a little more technical focused, whereas a 4-year, the skill sets are often similar, but probably developed more of a comprehensive look at the entirety of what cybersecurity looks like.
Okay.
And that 2-year person probably is not going to move quickly into management. They're going to take a few more years.
Got it.
I actually would love to see them add a bachelor's degree on top of it, which would make them very qualified.
And they don't have that. That's not part of the plan yet?
So Marshall does have a BAS degree.
Okay.
That is starting in this next year.
Right.
Would be very helpful. It is not cyber focused per se, but would still be a great add-on. There are other programs where they could go and get that add-on.
Yeah.
Actually with an additional cyber focus.
Yeah.
So there's solutions there.
Yeah. So you mentioned, your previous city, Colorado Springs,
yep.
right? What are some of the biggest differences in working with a community and technical college there versus Huntington, West Virginia?
So the community college had 50 years of history.
Okay.
And was clearly known as this is the workforce provider for anything 2 years or less.
Okay.
And that included all areas. And it made it really easy for companies to navigate. We would be we'd have a higher involvement in recruiting companies.
Okay.
And so here it's a more of an ecosystem,
yeah,
which has advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
And so we're working through that.
What are some of the advantages and disadvantages?
So the advantages is we have other people involved.
Okay.
We have other people who show up, other people who can support, and we do have strengths because of that.
Yeah.
The weakness, of course, is sometimes people say, well, who do I go to? Where do I go?
Yeah.
When I moved here, a neighbor said, look, I'm an LPN. I didn't know where to go to get this training.
Really?
I had to try 5 different places. No one could tell me who had it. And I wanted to be aligned with the college degree, and we can serve through purposeful alignment of efforts,
Yeah.
we are serving, but can continue to serve
Yeah.
our neighbors, but also our businesses
Sure.
better.
What are some of the misconceptions you think that are out there about Mountwest?
So I know historically it was like, if you're not ready for Marshall, go to this building, and that's where you get ready to go to Marshall.
Okay.
And that's what it was. It was just a dev ed, remediate your education.
A stall, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, yeah.
And it was not, a respected thing, probably, right?
Okay.
And we had very few workforce oriented programs.
Right.
We had some. We've had some for a long time that have been very good: physical therapy assistant, paramedic. But we had some big gaps.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to see now is that students say, look, I may want a smaller campus. I'm not totally confident that my study skills are there. And I think I like the idea of one building where the math class is across the hall from the math tutoring, which is diagonal from the teacher's class.
Got it. Yeah,
office.
sure. Yeah.
Which door is always open, right?
Right.
So I think that there's a lot more respect going on. We have valedictorians who have come to our high school. We call it Jumpstart. So they come to us for their senior year. Now we can even do junior year. They get probably 30 credits.
Okay.
And they leave with a great GPA, who are realizing, I'm actually going to stay and get my gen eds done, and I'm going to then go on to St. Mary's Nursing, which is a Marshall program. So, right, if a valedictorian and others that are very high academic are coming through, it's a different institution than it was.
Well, talk about like the perceptions of. I think the perceptions of community and technical schools and labor school, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, I think that has totally changed over the last 10 years or so. I feel like what you just said, it was the go there to get ready for college or whatever. But I feel like, there was a period, you got to go to college. And then people would graduate with a degree in something weird. And it's like, all right, now what do I do? Right. And I think that perception has changed, where it's like, there is absolutely nothing wrong with getting a degree or certificate in a specific program, and then boom, you're in the workforce and you're making a really good living.
I mean, that seems to be all the emphasis right now.
Yeah, it does.
And when you look at the reports, the skills that are missing generally are available at the 2-year or less. That's actually where we have the biggest gaps.
Yeah, sure.
And actually very good wages.
Yeah.
In fact, the completers of associate degrees, it rivals and sometimes passes completers of bachelor's degrees. The earnings after graduation.
Sure.
So it's
and a heck of a lot less debt too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The one thing I hear that I wish people would rephrase. It's become popular to say college isn't for everybody. I know what they mean, and I wish they'd say what they mean. They mean to say you don't have to go live in the dorms, you don't have to go to university, you don't have to rack up debt. You can get a career by 20 in a medical field, in a skilled trade. You can pay sometimes $0 of tuition.
Right.
It's wild, right? The opportunities. And I wish we could just get that right, though.
I'm with you.
Yeah. When you say college isn't for everybody, it has like a negative.
Yeah, it does. It does.
What we need to say is you can go to the military, you can go to tech school, you can go into a trade apprenticeship, and you can definitely go into community college or university. Yeah. All of those are winning options.
That's right.
And our problem in our state and the entire country, but our state, people have to choose one of those areas.
Yeah, that's right.
They really need to do one of those things.
That's right. Yeah. What do you think are some opportunities for the next 5 or 10 years for Mountwest?
So we think that there's space for a few more programs, and the right programs. We want programs that lead to wages. We're not just creating things that we think students think will be cool and get enrollment, right? Like, let's get you to a career.
Sure.
I think that we want to be more nimble and responsive to industry. I'd say that we need to build out the opportunities for the people who they want a one-day training, or they want to train, but if they do want to train 5 people, we actually do need to be able to really address that.
Right.
I'd say, honestly, we're within months of really getting that squared away.
I got it. Go ahead.
And more, I really want to be embedded in companies to do, you get hired as a frontline worker. Maybe that requires no training. Let's then give you the training you need to advance to the next role. And if your company doesn't have the 20 people to do that, let's partner with the other companies.
Right.
In whatever industry you're in, and let's make those pathways.
What are some of your goals? You mentioned, actually, before I ask that question, add more programs. To add more programs, do you need to drop programs? Are there programs that you could see like on the chopping block for Mountwest? I mean, things change.
So we are always analyzing our programs.
Of course.
And we have multiple data sources that we look through to see. And we look at a couple of things. One is the enrollment adequate? And if the enrollment is not adequate, we got to talk.
That's right.
Why is that? If it's because people don't know about it, but they're walking out the door making great money, well, then let's see if we can address that.
That's right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
We would not replace an old program with a new program. That's not necessary. What we will do though is sometimes programs outlive their usefulness.
Of course.
Yeah. So there's two that we have eliminated in the last year or two. One was drones is the foundation. It's
Okay.
GIS.
Okay.
Okay, and it's pretty cool. It's using drones, using technology, land mapping. So here's the thing: nobody in high school has heard of GIS.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't even. What's that mean?
Geographic information systems.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'll go with it.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Yeah.
And we know that if people don't know the name of our programming, they're not going to come.
That's right.
Unless it is embedded in the company.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Sure.
So the other one that we have cut or maybe put on pause or maybe a long-term redesign is engineering.
Okay.
And what does a 2-year engineer do? And actually, we hear that there's decent jobs, but we need to hit pause. And in the next year or two, I think we're going to go back out to industry and say, do you need it? Are there jobs? And how can you help us design this? We talk a lot about micro-credentials so that maybe they come for 16 weeks or less, they get entry level, and then they can continue to stack on this and move up in their career. That is the ideal design.
Sure. Yeah. So again, going back to that, what are your goals? You mentioned around 2,500 students. What are your goals for Mountwest here in the next couple of years?
It's interesting is I don't have a specific numeric goal of what enrollment should be. I think it's there's something touchy-feely about community colleges, right? And we know we're doing our job right when we're reaching out to the community, getting people in the doors who would not move into careers without us, right? That's what we're after.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that mean that we double enrollment if we're doing our jobs right? It might. That's not unreasonable.
I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially for the service area we have. So, I mean, I think there's some idea there that something like that is not unrealistic.
Sure. And again, just all the, there's you can definitely feel some positive energy happening in and around Huntington right now, right?
Yes.
So many good stories, and Mountwest is definitely fueling that, man. You're part of that recipe. You're one of those ingredients of, we're getting the workers that we need,
Yeah.
To support these businesses and this innovation district and everything else that's going on in and around Huntington.
Right.
How can the business community further support Mountwest? Your mission, your goals there.
I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't point out scholarships.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Yeah, right. Like, help us donate because we do have these sources that pay for tuition, but they have gaps. So help us get students through and understand these students are trying hard. And at graduation, you get students come across the stage in tears. And one student who I'd never met before, but she said, "You saved my life." And I know she didn't mean me. I know she meant the team and the college and opportunity. But those things are real.
Absolutely.
Things are real. Like it's a really emotional experience, and I almost wish you could come up to graduation, like just see, everybody who's listening could just come see who's walking across the stage and hear their stories.
Sure.
And where they came from and where they're going.
Yeah. How many kids graduate? How many students graduate a year?
So we probably have about just shy of 1,000 graduating. Less than that walk.
Okay.
Not everybody walks.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't walk mine. I was already working.
So. I've walked at one of my 3 graduations.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
But the other thing though is I want industry to know that they should reach out.
Okay.
And they should help us build an inventory of here's a training that if you had it we would do.
Yeah.
And if you're really struggling to get employees, talk to us about solutions.
Well, can they call you about internships and things like that too?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Maybe it's not a program, but like, hey, I could use some interns. We do what you all offer. Can I have, can we work out at something where I can get 1 or 2 or 5 interns, whatever it is?
What's really desirable about that is half of the wages can be paid for.
Okay.
So you're going to pay half of, and they really do. The state encourages or maybe even requires $15 an hour.
Okay.
So, but that cuts the employer's cost way down low.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a real service to the community, to these students. It really elevates their opportunities, and hopefully it helps our companies find the right people.
Sure. Talk about more the scholarships. How, how do those work? I mean, do businesses will they do a scholarship, from insert business name here and give it to a student under certain criteria for a certain industry?
Yes. Little Caesars just did one that's kind of company based.
Yeah.
Others will. We have people who have been donating for years. People who have set up legacy gifts or set up basically endowed scholarships that will last forever.
Yeah.
Somebody recently committed to a 20-year scholarship for the Vet Tech program.
Okay.
So there's lots of different ways this works. And some people say, hey, I'm going to send you a check for $500 once a year until I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
There's so many ways that people can do that.
Yeah. $500 off somebody's enrollment goes a long way.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's actually a really big deal.
That's right. Anything I missed? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think I'd want our employers to know the students that we're moving through, they have lots of challenges. And we have food pantries. We've just invested more in our emotional mental health supports, overcoming accessibility issues. And it is really phenomenal work. I mean, I feel privileged, a gift to be involved in that. And to see these individuals come through who are, right, all of a sudden at 20-year-old find themselves being a parent they didn't plan on. And,
that's right.
And if we're not there for them, they may never have a career. But if we create the right solutions in front of them, marvelous things can happen.
Sure. Why do you want employers to know that?
I just wish that they could talk to these young people. Well, I say young people, a lot of them are in their 30s.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Right, but there's people who they're making such a sacrifice. They have this. I want to do something.
That's right.
And there's not many times in your life when you're willing to say, I'm willing to change my course. And when they make that commitment to us, we have to go all in on their support. And sometimes we get people, they got to do it on their own. They got to earn it. Man, they're trying.
That's right.
They are trying to earn it.
Right.
We get people knock on the doors, hey, I'm a high school dropout. I'm in this situation, that situation. We want to make sure we do everything possible. And the more that companies can help us with those supports, but also really making clear those jobs at the end. And I like your comment about internships. They need that. Some of these people, right, high school kids, they don't have paper routes.
That's right. That's right.
They don't have the same options that we have.
No. Yeah, it's like you can't get that first job because you didn't have a job. It's like, well, how am I going to get my first job? But no, that's great, and it's I'm not comparing to going to the gym, right? The hardest step is that first day of going to the gym,
Yes.
like of actually packing that bag and walking in.
Yeah.
Kind of the same thing, but obviously a much bigger step is pick up that phone or going to the website, mctc.edu,
right,
and signing up, applying now, learning more, right? That first step of walking in that first day it's going to change your life.
I got to tell you, I love it when we have occasionally a board member or other community member who walks in with a neighbor, a friend, sometimes their own kid, and it's like, hey, I got him here. They're interested. You got to help me get them to the next steps.
That's right.
It's so fun to see that, and people, and they get really excited. Like, they have a chance now. Like, help me. Like, I got this energy. They're interested. Help me get them over the line.
That's awesome. And that's our episode. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, share, and even leave us a 5-star review. Season 2 of In Your Business is presented by Moses Auto Mall of Huntington. Online at mosesmeansmore.com and powered by the Huntington Regional Chamber of Commerce and Kindred Communications.